Do not break. I'm staring at an empty plate on the kitchen table, the one you used to fill with scrambled eggs and toast on Saturday mornings. Back when we bothered to act like a normal couple, even if the silence behind our eyes was too thick to cut. Now, it mocks me. Cold. White. A void where something nourishing should be. I'm recording this, my voice, my thoughts, for you, Anna. Part diary, part confession, part raging hurricane of words I can't keep to myself anymore. Don't worry. I'm not doing this in the hope that you'll stumble across it. I'm doing it because I've got to get it out, or it'll burn straight through my chest. You always said I had a gift for words. So let me give you everything now, unfiltered. Where do I even begin? Maybe with the truth that we both pretend doesn't exist. I've known about your affair for a while. I found your old makeup bag in the attic, buried under stacks of dusty books and photo albums. That was months ago, Anna. But it feels like just a heartbeat ago that I was trembling as I pulled it out of the drawer, like it had no business being there, yet there it was. And inside, that note. I remember how my hand jerked. I almost dropped it. My throat closed up, my stomach twisted. I wanted to believe it was some old piece of paper from before we ever met. But no, it was fresh. Clear. Loving words for someone who wasn't me. Do you remember how I used to rummage through your makeup kits, trying to find that chapstick you always managed to misplace? I'd tease you. You sure you only have one of these? You'd laugh and say something snippy like, "Don't judge how many lipsticks I have." Okay. It was playful. It was harmless. But that day, nothing was playful, nothing was harmless. I unfolded the note. He means everything. I see a future, kids, a life, a real chance. My name wasn't mentioned once. That's when I found the picture. God. The picture. You and him. Ethan Caldwell. Tall, broad shoulders, that perfect real estate agent grin, the one he probably flashes while selling million-dollar mansions. And you were all over him, your arm looped around his neck, both of you smiling as if you discovered a brand new happiness. And me. I was the ghost behind the lens, not even a memory in that snapshot. I closed the makeup bag. I set it back. I walked downstairs on shaking legs and stared at the ring on my finger. It felt like a prison band. But for some reason, I didn't take it off. I suppose I wanted to pretend a little longer. Pretend that the empty plate on the table was just a symptom of a busy schedule, not the real sign of what we'd become. Two strangers occupying a silent house. I need to tell it from the beginning, or at least from a point where all illusions started to crack. We had our routine. You and I work, dinner, bed, repeat. I was teaching English to a bunch of high school kids, grading countless essays, and trying to write my own novel in the stolen hours after midnight. You work your marketing magic from home, or sometimes in coffee shops, occasionally meeting clients in glass-walled offices downtown. We paid the bills. We said, "I love you" out of habit, maybe. But it was hollow, wasn't it? We went entire evenings with just the hum of the TV for company. One night, months before I found that note, something in you changed. I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but maybe it was when you started going out for extra client meetings. You'd slip into that fitted blouse and a pencil skirt, a professional but undeniably attractive look. I'd see the way you check yourself in the mirror, lightly touching your hair, your lips parted in a faint, excited smile. And I'd get this churn in my gut. Who are you doing that for? I was too afraid to ask. Too afraid you'd tell me. So I just let it happen. You left. You came home late. You climbed into bed with me. And we both pretended to be asleep. But the real blow came a few weeks later. I remember you were wearing that crimson dress I used to love, back when it was for my eyes only. And you said you had a work dinner with a new client. Shouldn't take long. You told me in the doorway. I tried to smile. "Don't wait up," you added, a dismissive wave of your hand. The door shut, and the silence rushed in, heavier than usual. I think I knew then. No, I'm lying. I knew even before, A husband can sense when his wife's heart is no longer in his corner. When she stops turning to him for comfort. When she stops picking fights because she just doesn't care enough to engage. Indifference. That's more painful than betrayal. That's what tears you apart inch by inch. It was that same night I forced myself to follow you. I grabbed my coat, stumbled into the car, and tailed your sit-in downtown. I felt like an idiot, a stereotype from some cheap soap opera. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely steer. I parked on the street, half a block from the fancy restaurant you'd chosen, someplace I'd never even heard you mention. And I waited. Through the glass front, I saw you at the bar, swirling a cocktail in your hand, your eyes bright with anticipation. Then he came in. Tall, dark hair, confident stride. Ethan Caldwell. He leaned in close to you, put his hand on your waist. You pressed up against him, whispering something in his ear, smiling that smile you used to save for me. I watched like a stunned spectator. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I wanted to smash the glass with my fist, barge in, tear you away from him. But my fear weighed me down. Fear of losing, fear of confronting the truth. Fear that maybe you'd look at me with annoyance and say, "You already lost me, long ago." Then the unimaginable. You both left, and I followed, weaving between cars as you walked side by side, arms brushing. You ended up at a hotel, one of those high-end places with a revolving door and a well-dressed doorman. My heart hammered so loudly I could have sworn the whole street heard it. You didn't hesitate. Neither did he. Like you'd been there before. And I just stood there, lips parted in a silent gasp, a cowardly shadow on the sidewalk. I still remember the swirl of city lights overhead, the way the air smelled of late-night coffee and exhaust fumes. I can't recall how long I stood there. Might have been 5 minutes, might have been an hour. Eventually, I tore myself away and drove home in a daze. That was the night I stopped sleeping in any real sense. When you came home, long after midnight, I pretended to be dead asleep. You peeled off your clothes, took a quick shower, then crawled into bed. The faint smell of soap, a stray drop of perfume. It felt like you weren't even there, an echo of the woman I used to love. I lay awake, eyes shut, tears slipping down my cheeks. She's gone. She's really gone. Exposition over, I guess. Now for the real story. How I found the evidence in the attic, how I tried to talk to you about everything, how you just stared at me like you were bored. I remember the day after that discovery. I came down to the kitchen in the morning, your makeup bag back where I'd found it, except the note was in my pocket. The pictures, too. My mind felt like it was on fire. I said, "Anna, do you want to talk about anything? Something you need to tell me?" And your gaze flicked up. You just shrugged and went back to reading some marketing proposal. "No, Michael," you replied. "Everything's fine." Why would you ask? Just like that. That's when it hit me. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. The worst part was your indifference. The sense that you'd moved on internally, and I was just this leftover you had to put up with until you decided to cut ties. Or maybe you thought I was too oblivious or weak to do anything. Maybe you were right. I thought about confronting Ethan, but how? Call him up and say, "Hey, this is Anna's husband. Could you kindly stop sleeping with my wife?" Ridiculous. Yet the rage in me was growing. I felt it simmer under my skin, a tight coil in my chest. Some nights, I fantasized about punching him straight in his perfect grin. But then another part of me, the more pathetic, desperate part, wondered if it was even worth it. If you didn't care, why should I? I withdrew. I told you I was blocking your number from my phone. You just smirked like you didn't believe me. Then I blocked you on social media. I tore our wedding photos off the wall in my study. I moved some of your stuff out of the bathroom cabinet, storing it in a box. But we still lived in the same house, slept in the same bed. How twisted is that? Two bodies, side by side, might as well have been on opposite planets. I tried to work on my novel, The one about love and redemption I'd always dreamed of finishing. But every word felt false, so I changed it. I let the betrayal seep in. Page after page, I wrote about a man who discovered his wife's secret. Each sentence was a direct line from my chest, dripping with bitterness. I wrote until my eyes blurred, until my wrists hurt. And still, the pain was there, like an open wound that wouldn't clot. And you, Anna, you read it. You read every new page. Sometimes I'd find you in the living room, the manuscript in your lap, your hand to your mouth, your face pale. You said nothing, just stared at the words, occasionally glancing my way with an expression that seemed to say, "So this is how he knows." I expected a confrontation, tears, anger, something, but you gave me silence, and I hated you for that more than for the affair itself. Let me shift now, move forward to that day I forced the confrontation. The day I found the strength to do what had to be done. I had come home early from school, more out of a need to settle my own riotous mind than anything else. And there, parked in our driveway like he owned the place, was Ethan's shiny black sedan. My heart thudded. A jolt of adrenaline shot through me. I left my car down the street and approached quietly, every nerve buzzing. The front door was unlocked. Inside, I heard muffled voices upstairs. Our bedroom. My breath caught in my throat. I stood at the foot of the stairs, knuckles white around the railing, paralyzed for a moment. My mind screamed, "Do I even want to see this?" But the wave of anger, betrayal, and a twisted sense of I have a right to know propelled me forward. I climbed the stairs. Each step felt like stepping on broken glass. The bedroom door was cracked open. Your voice drifted out, low and intimate, with a hint of laughter. His deeper tone responded, playful, full of seduction. My chest burned. I pushed the door, slowly, quietly. And there you were, my wife, in his arms. Tangled sheets, your skin against his. An unmistakable moment of intimacy. Your hands wrapped around his neck, your eyes half closed in pleasure. The detail of your lace bra undone, sliding from your shoulder, told me more than I ever wanted to see. I wish I could say I roared like a lion, stormed in, threw him off you. But I froze. My jaw moved, but no sound came out. My heart hammered so violently I thought it would explode. Only when you caught sight of me did the world snap back into motion. You gasped, pulling the sheet up to cover yourself. Ethan lurched upright, eyes wide, as if seeing a ghost. He stammered something, but I didn't hear it. Blood rushed through my ears in a deafening torrent. I shouted, "Get the hell out." But my voice cracked, making me sound more broken than angry. Ethan scrambled for his clothes, babbling apologies or excuses. I couldn't tell which. He stuffed himself into his pants, half tripping as he ran out the door, shirt in hand, shoes left behind. You just sat there, hugging the sheets around you like a shield. You looked at me with neither fear nor sorrow, but something worse. Resignation. I stared back, fists clenched, tears stinging my eyes. "Why?" was all I could muster. My voice trembled. You swallowed hard, then said nothing. Your eyes glistened, but no tears fell. I expected you to reach for me, to apologize or lash out. But you remained silent, as if I didn't exist in your world. I wanted to yank the covers away, force you to face your own betrayal. But I couldn't move. My legs felt like lead. Finally, in a ragged whisper, I said, "I hate you for making me feel this way." And with that, I stormed out. I heard you call my name, but it was too late for mercy, too late for anything. I left the house. Drove around aimlessly for hours, the city passing in a blur of gray sidewalks and flickering neon signs. My mind was spinning with images of you wrapped in his arms. I parked near an old bar off the highway, sat in a lot under a flickering lamp. A swirl of guilt, anger, heartbreak washed over me in waves. At that moment, I realized how unbelievably alone I felt, not just physically, but emotionally. Even though I'd discovered your affair, The heartbreak was overshadowed by this brutal emptiness I couldn't shake. Indifference. That's what you gave me. Maybe you were tired of our stale marriage, but you could have at least told me. Screamed at me. Let me feel something from you besides that cold acceptance. That's when the idea of revenge took root. A desperate, twisted idea. If you wouldn't give me honesty, if you wouldn't show me regret, then I'd burn what little life we'd built together. No more illusions. But how does a man get revenge in a situation like this? By cheating back. By leaving you and half our assets behind, plunging us both into financial ruin. By confronting Ethan. By humiliating you in front of your clients. An hour later, a new plan formed in my head. Use the only skill I have. Words. My writing. I'd expose everything. I'd finish my novel, but I'd lace it with the raw, ugly truth. Turn it into something that would rip the bandages off our charade of a marriage. Something that might tarnish your precious image, show the world the coldness I faced behind closed doors. Petty. Maybe. But heartbreak makes men do strange things. I told you I was leaving for a while, maybe a couple of weeks. I needed time to think, I said, though the truth was I needed space to breathe, to plan. I packed a suitcase, took some of my notebooks, and drove up into the mountains, rented a small cabin by a lake. It was off-season, quiet, perfect. Days passed in isolation. Mornings blurred into nights. I wrote like a man possessed. The story of a teacher whose wife betrayed him with a charming real estate agent. The teacher's heartbreak, his fury, his quest for revenge. Every nuance came from my soul. The words spilled out with such venom, I barely recognized my own voice in them. I recounted every memory I had of us. The day we met in college, your bright laugh that made me feel unstoppable, our wedding day under the Texas sun, the small fights, the big fights, the unspoken resentments, until the final humiliation. In the story, the protagonist sets a trap for the cheating wife, exposing her affair publicly in a humiliating confrontation. He leaves her shattered before walking away for good. Dark, unforgiving. And at night, I would lie awake, wondering if I had that same darkness in me, or if I was just writing it to purge the poison from my system. Ethan called me once on my cell phone, from a number I didn't recognize. I answered in a haze. "We should talk," he said, voice shaking. "We can settle this like adults." I nearly laughed. Settle what? You're trifling with my wife. I hung up without another word. The nerve of him. As if a rational conversation could fix what he ruined. But I wasn't just angry at him. I was angry at you. No, that's not right. I was furious at the shallow emptiness you offered me. I wanted you to scream, to cry, to plead, to break a lamp in rage. Something. Anything. Besides that detached acceptance. Did you even care at all? The day of our final confrontation came when I returned from the cabin, manuscript in hand. I was exhausted, half crazy with sleepless nights, words swirling in my head. Our house felt foreign to me, quiet and cold. You were in the living room, typing on your laptop, looking up at me with an unreadable expression. Maybe relief, maybe fear. "Anna," I said, "we need to talk." My voice had a hard edge. You closed your laptop slowly, set it aside, and folded your hands on your lap, like you were bracing for a lecture. For a moment, I almost exploded. Instead, I inhaled, forcing calm. I wrote everything down. I said, holding up the thick sheaf of pages, "I want you to read it. All of it. Don't skip a word. Then we'll talk." Without a word, you took the pages from me. I watched your hands shake, just slightly. For the first time in months, I sensed a genuine emotion in you. Fear. You cleared your throat and asked, "And if I don't want to?" The question was rhetorical. You knew you had no choice. This was my ultimatum. I left the room, retreating upstairs. Over the next few hours, I paced the hallway, occasionally pressing my ear to the banister, listening for any reaction. Silence. Then pages turning. More silence. By nightfall, I couldn't stand it any longer. I marched back into the living room. You were still reading. Eyes red, tears clinging to your lashes. I almost pitied you. You reached the final page and lowered the manuscript onto your lap, exhaling a ragged breath. "This is how you see me," you whispered. "A monster." I folded my arms. "Better than a ghost," I said. "At least a monster would show some damn feeling." You closed your eyes. A single tear broke free and slipped down your cheek. Then, to my shock, you started talking, quietly at first, your words pouring out like you'd been holding back a flood. "I loved you, Michael." "I did," you said. "But somewhere along the way, we both got lost." You buried yourself in your books, your writing, your classes. I tried to reach you, but you were always a million miles away, somewhere in your head. I felt like a roommate, not a wife. And yes, I found Ethan. He offered me excitement, attention. I was tired of feeling invisible. Invisible, I repeated, voice rising. You never told me you felt that way. You never gave me a chance to fix it. You gave a bitter laugh. Would you have listened? You were too busy with your fictional worlds. Even now, you're punishing me through a story. That's how you communicate, with pages, not words to my face. I clenched my teeth, feeling a swirl of shame and anger. What about the nights you lied to me? The note in that damned makeup bag. The hotel visits. You think that's justified because I was busy. That's twisted. Tears fell freely down your cheeks now. Still, I wasn't sure if they were tears of regret, or self-pity, or something else entirely. I'm not trying to justify it. I made choices, awful ones, but your indifference was killing me, and I guess I convinced myself I deserved more. And now, it's all ruined. A violent urge to smash something seized me, but I held back. Instead, I grabbed the edges of my shirt, twisting the fabric until my knuckles whitened. My voice came out hoarse. You could have left. You could have told me you wanted out. But no, you had to keep me here in the dark while you played out your little fantasy. That's the part I can't forgive. You covered your face with your hands, sobbing softly. My own eyes stung, but anger overshadowed any sympathy. I said, "Pack up whatever you need. I want you gone. You can stay with him, for all I care." "Michael," you pleaded, voice trembling. "What if?" "Stop," I snapped. "I don't want to hear it." Then a softer wave of emotion hit me, and I closed my eyes. "If you ever loved me, just give me this. Let me have my life back. I can't stand to see you here anymore." You choked back another sob, nodding slowly. "Okay," you whispered. "I'll go." With unsteady steps, you headed upstairs. I stood there, fists at my sides, trying to process the tidal wave of relief, sadness, hatred, and regret. The next day, you were gone by the time I woke up. Only your scent lingered in the bedroom, the closet half empty, and on the table downstairs, your wedding ring. That final symbol left behind like a door slamming shut. I stared at it, wondering if I should feel relief or sorrow. Probably both. But something else haunted me. A question. Is this really the end, or just another labyrinth that'll keep me wandering forever? The note, your pictures with Ethan, the numbness in my chest, none of it went away overnight. The house felt too big, too quiet. Loneliness in a living marriage had turned into loneliness in an empty house. I considered calling you, telling you to come back for a real conversation. But every time I picked up the phone, I imagined your cold face, your dismissive shrug, or worse, that haunted sadness you'd shown me last night. I set the phone down, blocked you again. I had to shut you out, right? Otherwise, I'd never be free. I reached out to a lawyer, made it official. The divorce proceedings started. Paper after paper, signature after signature, dividing up property, money, assets. We mostly did it through quiet negotiations. You didn't fight. You just signed. Maybe guilt weighed you down. Or maybe you wanted out as badly as I did. Then it was done. No screaming in court, no dramatic meltdown. Just the quiet unraveling of two lives that had once been intertwined. Months passed. I'd like to say I moved on gracefully, but that would be a lie. I spent nights staring at the blank wall in my study, remembering your laugh, or the faint lines at the corner of your eyes when you were genuinely smiling, back in the days when we still had hope. I tore at my hair, cursed the day I first met you. Some nights, I got drunk alone, whispering your name to the silent house. But something else was happening too. My novel, the same one that had begun as a raw expression of my heartbreak, was taking shape. I refined it, cut out my most vengeful rants, focused on the real emotional pulse, a man undone by betrayal, trying to rebuild. And the more I poured my energy into shaping that narrative, the less power my anger had over me. I was forging a path, forging words that told my side of the story while also showing how a marriage can decay from both sides. It wasn't exactly redemption. Maybe it was just survival. One day, out of the blue, I got an email from a small publishing house. They'd read a few chapters I'd posted online. They wanted more. They saw promise in the raw honesty of it. My heart pounded as I read their message. That same night, I typed until dawn, determined to turn this twisted experience into something meaningful. Something that might resonate with men like me. Men who gave so much of themselves only to be quietly replaced. And now here I am, standing in the attic again, recording this. The same attic where I found your damned makeup bag. A place that used to be filled with dusty holiday ornaments and old pictures, memories of better times. The ring of the single overhead bowl casts a tired glow on the beams. The shapes of stacked boxes loom like old ghosts. This time, I feel no trembling. I'm numb. Or maybe I'm stronger now. Hard to tell. There's a single box on the floor labeled Anna's Things. I consider rummaging through it, maybe to find some final shred of closure. But I decide against it. I set my phone on a crate, press record. I take a deep breath. You asked me once, Anna, if I'd break. If all this would destroy me. Well, maybe it did for a while. But guess what? I'm still here. My voice echoes in the stillness, drifting among the dusty rafters. I think about Ethan, how he tried to contact me once more, left a voicemail. Man, I'm sorry. I never meant. I never listened to the rest. He doesn't exist to me now. If you're with him, I wish you the best, as hollow as that sounds. Because the real tragedy, Anna, is that you don't own me anymore. Neither of you do. I head back downstairs. The house is quiet as always, but somehow the emptiness feels different now, like a blank canvas rather than a gaping wound. The living room floor is scattered with typed pages, notes for the last chapter. This time, the protagonist in my story takes one final step toward freedom. He confronts the memory of his wife, and then walks away, truly this time. No illusions, no secret strings pulling him back. Maybe that's the ending I never had the courage to write before. Your name showed up in my phone last week, a blocked message that still managed to slip through somehow. You said, I'm sorry. I hope you find happiness. Reading those words, I felt a strange mix of rage and relief. Then I deleted them. Too late. The worst part of all this was never the actual betrayal. It was how it hollowed me out, how you didn't seem to care if I was lying on the floor bleeding inside. How you watched me crumble and just turned away. But I'm done letting that define me. I'm not naive enough to say I forgive you. Maybe one day I will. For now, I'm just living. Day by day, breath by breath, word by word. The final scene in my head is this. I'm in front of a camera, my phone, really, speaking to an audience that might never see this. The ring light casts shadows on my face, accentuating the lines I've gathered from too many sleepless nights. Do not break, I say again, but this time it's a mantra for myself, For any man out there who's felt the gnawing emptiness of betrayal, I place the phone on the table next to that empty plate, the plate that used to represent your absence. Now, it's a symbol of something else, an open possibility. I shut off the recording, exhaling slowly. Tension ripples through my shoulders, then releases, leaving me drained, yet strangely calm. In the kitchen, the sunlight filters through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, turning them into tiny sparks of gold. I run my fingers over the countertop where you and I shared countless meals, arguments, moments of tenderness. It's just an empty counter now, and that's okay. Because the next meal I place on this plate might be one I make for myself, free of illusions, free of that silent resentment we carried for too long. And if I ever fill that plate for someone else, it'll be because I choose to, not out of obligation, or fear, or the broken remains of a marriage that died before I had the courage to say goodbye. So yes, that's the truth of it, Anna. The final confrontation, the final act, the final heartbreak. But it's also the final beginning for me. I told you once that the period in my writing might just be another link to a bigger labyrinth. That might still be true. But at least now I'm walking into that labyrinth with my eyes open. No illusions, no burdens of your indifference on my shoulders. And that's more freedom than I've felt in years. I'll set this story aside now. Let it speak for itself. Maybe the biggest lesson is that sometimes the real betrayal is not the affair itself. It's the moment we realize we were never truly seen by the person we loved. But that doesn't have to break us. Not anymore. I'm done here, Anna. This is my farewell. You won't hear my voice shaking in a phone call, begging you for answers. You won't see me standing on the sidewalk outside some hotel, paralyzed by heartbreak. I'm free, or at least I'm learning how to be. And when I finally place a period at the end of this story, yes, a real period, I won't need to wonder if it's a link to more suffering. This time, it's a declaration. I have survived, and I will keep surviving.